Steve Jackson edits The Australian's Media Diary. And Jacko, today you're reporting on a twist in the ongoing Alan Jones legal saga. What's happening?
That's right, Claire. There's already been so many twists and turns, and we haven't even got to the trial yet. What I've discovered is that there are now complaints that witnesses who are expected to be called in Alan Jones's defence have been contacted by someone purporting to be a tabloid journalist and asked questions about the evidence that they're going to give. Now, of course, as you know, it's not illegal for journalists to do this, but there's a real grey area when that becomes a feeling of intimidation or, a scare tactic. Whether or not that's the intent of the journalist, it's the way that at least one witness has taken it, and I can reveal that one witness at least has gone to the detectives who've led this investigation and charged Mr. Jones and said that they feel as though there's this pressure being put on them by the media and that they're being told that they're being watched.
The person who made these phone calls allegedly described themselves as working for Nine's tabloid newspaper, the Sydney Morning Herald, which has published several stories containing allegations against Jones, all of which he has denied. Nine denied any of its journalists had intimidated any witness. What, if anything, are you reporting about who this journalist might be?
Look, to be fair, we don't even know it's a journalist. As I say, it's not illegal if a journalist has done it, but it could just be someone who is purporting to be a journalist. And for at least one witness, this has been too much, a lot of stress, and they've gone to the authorities and said, this is really uncool. How do they know I'm being called and why are they contacting me? Are they just calling and asking for details, as a journalist could and should do? Or is it something murkier? And in at least one instance, one of the witnesses says they feel as though it's murkier.
Often when criminal matters come to court, the witnesses are civilians. They've never encountered the court process before. They've also never encountered the media before. And we know that the wheels of justice turn very slowly, particularly at this low-level court, the local court where Alan Jones' trial will be held. There's a huge number of matters going through those courts all the time. It takes a lot of dedication from police to keep witnesses in the case, don't they? Because if they feel the stress, often witnesses just want to drop out.
Well, exactly, because even if you're not being accused of anything, the whole court process is extremely stressful. It's marginally more stressful than turning up on your podcast and being interrogated. What are they going to ask me? Are they going to accuse me of any wrongdoing? And it's hard for witnesses to remember sometimes they're not being accused of anything. They're just there to tell the honest truth about what they remember. But it's a very stressful process. We know last year, I've already reported, they were told, basically, you could be called at any point for 4 months from August. So block that out because, we also know that when they tell witnesses, hey, you're going to be called next Tuesday, delays happen quite regularly. Evidence runs long and they end up sitting around for days. So there's a 4-month window where they've all been told, reserve this time. We know that the prosecution's calling 139 or up to 139 witnesses. We know from Brian Wrench, who is Alan Jones's lawyer, said that there are 8 witnesses that they say will help defend Alan Jones by saying that they didn't see anything. Whether or not seeing anything actually proves anything, that's a different question. But again, it is a very stressful experience and you can see why they're jumping at shadows.
Another arm of Nine Radio, is the subject of a really gripping story in the New South Wales court system too. This was a leak to Ben Fordham about a judge, Penelope Wass. She's a former senior counsel, a very respected jurist and lawyer in her own right. Ben Fordham got a leak that she had allowed an accused person to give a welcome or acknowledgement of country in her court. Ben Fordham reported on it and then subsequently it emerged that she was accusing the office of the DPP, Sally Dowling, of having orchestrated that leak. Sally Dowling, the DPP, has admitted that this leak did come from her office, a junior member of staff who she said in a meeting suggested this as an idea, and Sally Dowling was busy reading emails and sending text messages and didn't really focus on whether it was the right thing to do or not. It's obviously blown up in her face and is very embarrassing. Do you need to...
Sorry, Claire. Sorry, I'm just busy sending a message. So, yes, definitely do that. Whatever you said, go ahead.
Sally Dowling has said in a submission to a parliamentary inquiry that she was unaware her staffer was planning to leak the information and never would have approved it if she had known. She said she deeply regrets not paying more attention in the meeting. One of your favourites in the media diary is witch hunts within organisations to find the leaker who's giving you things. You then report on the witch hunt, which is great fun. What would be your advice to organisations who have suffered a leak?
My advice would be don't go after the leaker. It's one of those things that we see quite often. There's one I've got going on at the moment. There's a story that we spoke about last week about an incident involving a reporter and a cameraman, heated words. Don't know if they exchanged, probably one direction, but there is now a witch hunt at Channel 7 for who provided me with that vision. And all you do when you do witch hunts for your own staff or say that what they've told people isn't true is that you're not addressing the problem. If people are leaking against your own organisation, it's because they feel that information needs to be told or shared because it's not being addressed internally. And I'd also say it's particularly reprehensible when it's conducted by media companies because we talk about we will go to court not to reveal our sources. We will go to court unless it's in our newsroom, in which case we'll hunt them down and get rid of them. And I just think, again, this is something we've talked about a lot, is when you see that, all that happens is that leaker, all of a sudden all their friends start leaking and it has the opposite effect. You try to get one person, next thing you know, I've got 9 people calling me.
It's often very futile as well because sources are, just like everyone else in the world now, very sophisticated about how they transmit information. You see companies going through the process of analysing people's emails and then looking at their official company devices to see if they sent any text messages or maybe which systems they've logged into recently. Any source worth their salt who is going to take the risk of doing a leak is not going to be using any of those platforms and leaving little fingerprints, are they?
The TV networks love this, going through people's emails and text messages. It's as easy as the email, screenshot it on their phone and it's sent via Signal or WhatsApp. But what we're seeing as a result of this is a lot more editorial staff inside places, and we know from the message that went out at the ABC, hey, don't send Signal about certain topics that could be covered by the Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism. We know that by virtue of them saying that, it's because all their staff are on Signal. And at 7, they're all on Signal. At 9, they use WhatsApp. But they're not prepared to send open text messages over their work phone. Is that to protect their sources? No, it's to protect themselves. And when you're in a situation where your own editorial staff are worried that their bosses are spying on them, there's only one impact that it has on morale, and it's not a good one.
Every organisation invests a huge amount of money in their computer systems and then in their official communication channels, Slack, Google Chat, whatever it is. But then other conversations, and this ranges from government departments right through to everywhere in the private sector, everyone is actually talking on WhatsApp or Signal or other encrypted apps. The Bondi Royal Commission issued a directive to the ABC and SBS for them to retain all their communications, official communications, about the news gathering related to Bondi. I mean, that's quite chilling for any newsroom, isn't it?
When you're in the heat of the moment, there are things said, and we see it happen time and again, that messages that people have sent historically while chasing a story or celebrating getting a story or they
don't age well.
Yeah, they don't age well, and they don't get read well in black and white. Office banter, we talk about gallows humour in newsrooms all the time. We're dealing with a lot of dark stuff, particularly people who do, national security, counter-terrorism, crime rounds. If you're trying to get the best story for your viewers, you'll be excited that, hey, I've got the father of a victim. And, should you be celebrating that, it doesn't always translate to the empathy and sympathy that you do feel after deadline, that adrenaline and that pressure. And sometimes it's really unfair because, again, the way things are read in retrospect, why did I put it that way?
We're going to get accused of being hypocrites here now because we've just been advocating for freedom of speech and complete transparency. But now I do agree. There are in newsrooms conversations that you have to have also about the trustworthiness or veracity of sources. Like you need to be able to say, this person's dodgy. I don't think we should go there with this story. You need to be able to have that conversation to make sure that what you are actually publishing is, legit. So that's also a bit of a sobering prospect, isn't it, for those kinds of communications to be aired?
Well, particularly, and to your point, there are questions that need to be asked. What's this guy's story? He looks a bit dodgy. Again, doesn't age well, but they're the questions that every journalist or every reporter gets pushback from their editors or executive producers in television, because they want to make sure, are we right on this? Are we sure about that? So there's a lot of pushback, and it's not saying that the organisation doesn't think it stands up. It's like, let's test it. Let's test everything. It's really difficult balancing act for anyone.
For me, one of the subtexts of that request from the Royal Commission, which only went to the public broadcasters, SBS and ABC, is about anti-Semitism. Are they having conversations inside those public broadcasters that might reflect the fear in some parts of the Jewish community that they are anti-Semitic, or that they allow anti-Semitic attitudes to thrive within their organisations? What have you noticed since Bondi about the reckoning that's happening, if there is one, in those public broadcasters about the kind of opinion they've been broadcasting?
We know that there are some instances that have been referred to the Ombudsman, saying, there are comments that show some level of prejudice. I mean, it's one of those ones that in those newsrooms, specifically because they're taxpayer funded and they are held to an extremely high standard because they have to be impartial, and the expectations, because they're effectively public servants, are so high that there is a massive pushback. And we are seeing people like Chairman Kim Williams and Managing Director Hugh Marks focusing on what's being said on social media. And we do see two leaders at the top who are very invested in making sure that those changes do come about.
Steve Jackson, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.